Food is medicine. Food and a change of lifestyle is the only cure of chronic illness. Medicine from the pharmacy never cures chronic illness. And that's why the doctor will give you the medicine and give you some guidance and tell you you're managing the illness, essentially managing the illness for life. That is what is told to patients of autoimmune diseases, which are really diseases of high inflammation, told to people of diseases like diabetes and high blood pressure. That is the headline. The reason I love to share this information, and I've been doing it for years now, is because still so few people have this knowledge. So few people know that basically changing what is on your plate can cure you of an illness that has basically collapsed your life or is very debilitating. I still meet many people, especially people in middle age and older, who have medicine, drugs as their companions. So if you have a place where they can share this information at your workplace or other spaces where you operate who could use this very, very valuable and critical information, let me know. And it's not only for older people or middle-aged people. Young people need this information as well because it is through a way of living, a way of eating over a long time that collapses our body systems. A chronic illness is essentially a collapse of our body system. Autoimmune illnesses, illnesses of high inflammation, are, you won't believe it, they are illnesses of the digestive system. So the digestive system collapses and the illness emanates in the weakest place of your body. So for me, it was my joints with rheumatoid arthritis. For others who have MS, for example, it demonstrates itself in the brain. Other illnesses are lupus, irritable bowel syndromes. The conditions for high inflammation for autoimmunity are in the hundreds. Thyroid, hyperactive thyroids, so many illnesses from one cause of a broken down digestive system. So I woke up one morning after my birthday in 2016, March 2016, with a full-blown rheumatism attack. I had a huge headache, a massive headache, a headache I'd never had. Every bone in my body, and I mean every bone including my spine, ached or was in pain. I couldn't touch this finger. And I was incredibly weak. So weak, all I could manage was a shower and an omelette. I then called the insurance company to ask them if there are rheumatologists they would recommend in town. I knew it was arthritis because a couple months earlier, I'd started to have aching joints. I couldn't open jars, for example. And I was given a contact of a rheumatologist in town. And it turns out this was a very successful practice. Basically, doctors, specialists who treat chronic conditions are some of the wealthiest, I think, in any part of the world. And this rheumatologist operated a clinic with 3 other doctors. 4 doctors for one condition. I booked the appointment. And then I thought to look up what prescription he was likely to give me. I thought, let's see what this will entail. And I found the treatment for for rheumatism was steroids and medicine given for chemotherapy. Imagine. And all sources, all medical authorities said rheumatoid arthritis has no cure. Now, listen, fortunately, I knew, of course, those alternatives. There are alternatives, and I'll tell you at the end of the video. There are many alternatives to chronic illness. And in 2012, I remembered I had cured a hormonal illness. This was a uterine condition. I was given hormonal medicine for 1 year. It went away. A year and a half later, I was back in the same condition. And this was a very, very painful condition. And I thought, I'm not doing that again. If I've taken medicine for 1 year and I still have the condition, we have a problem. And that's why I found out about functional medicine. Functional medicine is basically science that is taught to doctors who have already done their basic degree. We now have a few in Kenya, but there are not many. There are many in the States, for example. But these doctors are not enough to go around. Most of our doctors are trained to prescribe medicine. And it's very valuable. It's very valuable support they give us for short-term illnesses. If you've caught a virus, if you've caught a bacteria, if you have an injury for trauma, short-term medical treatment is really, I think, what clinical medicine was made for. But if you have a chronic condition, when a system of your body has collapsed, be it digestive, endocrinal, nervous, a pharmaceutical drug will not cure you. In fact, over time, your conditions increase. A side effect of a medicine is essentially a new illness. So you start out with rheumatism. Shortly after, you have high blood pressure and you're taking medicine for the high blood pressure. So on that morning of March 2016, I made a high-risk decision. It's not a decision I would recommend for everybody. You may need to take the medicine and ease off the medicine as you change your diet, as you change your lifestyle. I decided to cancel the appointment, not to see the doctor, and I changed my diet. I did 5 things. The first thing, I removed all dairy, milk, cheese, yogurt. I removed all gluten, no wheat products. I removed all starches and legumes, beans, peas. Those are highly starchy. Remember, this is to cure my digestive system that has collapsed. And the second thing I did, which is important, and which is very important when you're curing a chronic illness, is what you add. What can be added can end up being very, very special foods in your diet. I upped omega-3 fats. Omega-3 fats are found in nuts, avocados, coconut, and added more plant-based food. Essentially, a food for autoimmunity, for high inflammation, is a natural plant-based food. And adding this fats, what we call good fats, omega-3 fats, will not make you fat. What makes us fat are the sugars and starches that are in our diet. I'm giving you broad strokes of this diet change. Details can be given later with a group who you think would benefit. The third thing I did was remove all processed food. These chemicals, preservatives, food colorings that we are told are okay for food are not good for us. In fact, they're one of the causes of the very widespread illnesses that are part of the modern convenient lifestyle. When we pack up all those preservatives, food colorings, food flavorings, over time, they accumulate as toxins in our body. And also look at the body products you use. The skin is a big organ, and if every day you're, lathering up, putting on all these chemicals, over time, your body can't hack it. Our bodies are made to detox, but when your toxins are everywhere, they are in your bath products, they are in your food, they are in the air excessively, then the body can't take it anymore. The fourth thing was supplements. A superfood is highly recommended in our region, East Africa. We have baobab, chia, moringa. So find out what there is where you live. Now, this is important to mention, a mistake many people make. They go for the supplements first. If you jump to one supplement, they come in in fads and times, like somebody could say, oh, wheatgrass is really good, God knows what, kombucha is very good, spirulina is very good. One supplement will not cure a chronic illness. First, you have to change how you're eating depending on what the chronic illness is, and then add a supplement. I ensured I had a superfood, either moringa or chia seeds, every day. And I also put it into some of my recipes. I made very good green juice recipes that really tasted like ice cream. I used to look forward to breakfast, and I do it, but not very often these days. What you add can make meals very, very special until the people around you want to eat what you're eating. The fifth thing was exercise. Our bodies were made for movement. You cannot live healthily if you're sedentary and you're sitting down all the time. So some of the people I've helped, for example, were very weak with rheumatoid arthritis. One person could barely walk. She would feel like the wind is going to blow her to the ground. And I recommended walk around your house from room to room, but move. Even if it's just for half an hour. So 5 things I've given in broad strokes. 1, remove foods from your diet that are causing the digestion breakdown. Remember, our digestion thrives on good bacteria. Add food that good bacteria feeds on, including fiber, plant fibers. I had this slogan, and it's a slogan you find in functional medicine: drink your vegetables, eat your fruit. Because fruit juices have high concentration of sugar, and you don't want that. But green juices especially are so healing of so many conditions because they are so nutritious. And I made recipes for those. And number 3, remove processed foods. Number 4, add supplements. And supplements also determined by the condition that you have. So for rheumatism, for example, I needed to make sure there was extra vitamin D as well. And then the 5th thing, move, have some exercise. Those are the broad strokes. The details can be given later. This is very, very important information. And in every culture, this information of functional medicine is like ancient information. Every culture in history had things it did to keep people healthy, to deal with certain conditions over time. And for example, when I mentioned these supplements are things that were in gardens in Africa for ages. In fact, now people are making businesses out of these cures that we were taught were hocus pocus, had no place in modern life, but are important cures. I'll tell you something that happened recently. I got vertigo, just to emphasize the diversity of alternative cures. I got vertigo. Vertigo is when it's not dizziness, it's when the room and the chair or the bed you're in is just swimming. Basically, when you have vertigo, you can't go anywhere. It's very serious. It essentially collapses people's lives. And I saw this acupuncture therapist who's trained in Japan and also in China. You know, vertigo is said to be like in a ear problems and medicine is prescribed. But do you know what he recommended? Exercises of the neck. You know, like 4 exercises I would do in the morning and in the evening, you know. Simple exercises. Imagine I didn't take any medication. The vertigo went away. And it was the second time I was getting the vertigo. The first time it was slight and I was able just to sit still at home and it went away. The second time, these neck exercises were the cure. Vertigo. So if you have somewhere where I can share this information, I'll be more than happy to let me know.